Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Life, Love, and Existential Dread podcast. My name is Bryan Arata. I'm a film composer in Los Angeles. My co-host, Nathan Shelton, he's an actor, writer, director in Chicago, Illinois. And our next guest, we're having fun. We're having guests on. A friend of ours, Alan Marsh, is on with us today.
He's also guest.
The dancing guest. He's dancing for us if you're watching this video. He's also a fellow Angelino, but at one time, we were all Springfielders, Missourians, Springfieldians. I like Springfielders.
Fate had us formed in the same forge of Springfield, Missouri.
Missouri, yes, and
Well
we have all
said.
moved on. We have all moved on since then. But so glad to have you on, Alan. How you doing?
Lovely. How are you, gentlemen?
Great. How's the weather there?
It is so freaking muggy. It's like 100% humidity. It just rained last night.
Oh,
So it's like 87 degrees and 100% humidity. So
oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
there was a hurricane that turned into a tropical storm K
Right.
that made
wow.
landfall, and so we got some rain that
Thank
never happens
goodness.
in Los
Oh.
Angeles. Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Oh.
yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say when you said it was raining, Alan, I didn't know. I was like, oh, that's like the 3 times it happens a year. Or
Exactly.
Exactly.
Well,
Exactly.
yeah, no, it was welcome, but I left a trash can out to see how much we actually got, and it looked like about an inch, maybe not even.
Well, what do you think about the weather out there compared to Missouri, though? Like what it used to be like back in Missouri, because it gets pretty hot and muggy in Missouri too.
You know,
It's different out there, though, right?
well, it used to be. Now we have mosquitoes, which is like a new thing. You
Yeah.
know?
Come up-
Last
come up
few
from Missouri.
years get
Yes.
attacked by mosquitoes, and the humidity is somewhat similar to Missouri. So yeah, it has gotten worse these last few years. I've been here 17 years. So
You have been here a long time, Brian. I was looking at your
Yeah.
credits, and you were here. We all three one of the first things I did, and Nathan, I think you and I were both in Nine Grounds. And Brian, didn't you do the music for that?
yes, I did 9 grounds.
That was well, that's
Brian, I
cool.
didn't remember that you did the music for 9 Grounds.
Okay.
That's yet another thing we worked on.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. And this ties into questions I have for you, Alan. But finish what you're saying about that,
Oh,
Alan.
I think that was it. I don't know.
Oh, okay. Well, and when I first moved here, and this is a connection, I was trying to remember this, and I have this on an old Dell computer, which I still actually have in my closet, but I don't use it.
Dude, get a Dell.
Yes, I know. And I think it's on there, but I couldn't get it to boot up because it's so old. But there's a short film that you are the star of, Alan.
I know exactly what you're
Okay.
going to say.
Okay. Now hold on. I want to hear what you got to say, but let me say this first.
Yeah.
It was all I remember of it is you running at full speed. You got glasses on, you got great thick black hair and everything, and your hair is flopping around, and you are running at full speed away from these people in suits, and there's a ticking bomb involved.
I
What
saw
is
that.
What is that movie? I can't for the life of me
No,
remember
it's
it.
funny. I was just thinking about that just before we came on the air, and I looked it up, and I'm like, yeah, Brian did do the music for that. It's called The Author. And
Author.
It was a guy
Couldn't
named
remember that.
Yeah, back in those days, I was just starting out. Nathan and I had done Nine Grounds. We had done People in Motion, and
That's
I
where
was,
we met.
Yes, that's right. And I was just looking around for something to do, and I got on Craigslist or something, and there was a guy in St. Louis, a British guy named Nick Warwick, and he had a script. And so I contacted him and wound up being his sort of de facto producer and put together a budget and got all the actors and found a composer, and I don't think he ever finished it, but you did great music. The music was like the best part of that thing. It was so good. There was French horn. I remember as I'm running, I'm like, oh, this is just so above the level we should be at musically,
Well, it was one of my first projects. This is back in 06. I remember starting it. I started it in Springfield, and I finished it after I moved here to Los Angeles.
That's
Oh,
amazing.
wow.
I had one phone call with the guy. Everything was emails, and he's just like, "Oh, this is great, love it, love it." Everything.
Yeah.
I apparently couldn't do anything wrong, with this guy. He
But
just
yet,
loved everything.
he just couldn't
But
make the movie work.
Yeah, and I never saw the final product.
Well,
but I do remember some of the music, the French horns you're talking about, Alan, and these
Yeah.
big bombastic drums, chase drums when you're
Oh,
running. I
it's
do
so
remember
good.
that, but
So
like I
good.
said, I couldn't remember the title or the director guy. So thank you for that. I couldn't remember.
Oh,
for life of
yeah,
me.
no. Well, he did put out a little 5-minute version of it, which I have, and I will be glad to give you a copy of it if you'd like.
Yeah, please do. Because I was
Okay.
like,
Like to
man,
see
that's
that.
like so early on. And I was like, man, I know Alan is in that, but I couldn't remember all the details. So,
And I'm trying to remember why Nathan is not in that. He would have been had he been available. He must not have been. You must have been doing Dracula or something.
Possibly. We were doing a lot at that time, you know, like right around the time Alan. It's weird. We were just talking about this
I
because I
know.
know you as Al Marsh because that's
Yeah,
what you used to be known as, but now
that's
you've
right.
changed professionally to Alan. How long have you been Alan now?
Well, pretty much, it was like that was always what I went by when I was a kid, and then my parents just shortened it to Al. But when I was having to actually, you know, think how am I going to be billed on a movie, I don't know. Alan looked more balanced than Al, and I thought of like Al Capone. I'm like, well, I don't want to be like him, or Al Bundy, you know. I thought, but there's Woody Allen, there's Steve Allen, there's Gracie, there's all these classy Allens, so I'll be an Allen. And also Allen is my mother's maiden name.
Oh, really?
oh,
Yeah,
neat.
so
Okay.
it's kind of a tribute to her side of the family too.
That's awesome. That's a decision I think that all actors go through usually somewhere. Like if you go into school for acting in college, you've got those people that are putting their middle name in. So they're, a buddy of mine's Kyle Dean Massey. He's a Broadway actor. They came in, they're Kyle, and then
Yeah,
they go out and they're Kyle Dean,
Kyle Dean.
and like things like that. My name's Nathaniel, but when it came time for me to do the same thing, I was like, well, do I go by Nate? Do I go by,
Right.
in Patrick Shelton, or something like that?
Ooh,
I thought about it and I almost went like in Patrick Shelton as
that's
directing
nice.
stuff, but I just went with Nathan Shelton. So that's my union,
Yeah.
moniker. That's the way it is. But
Al Marsh probably would have been better because it seems like all the great movie stars just have like punch names like John Wayne, Tom Cruise, Tom Hanks.
Well, and I just thought of this one. What about Al Pacino? I mean, there's a big
Well,
one to be
see,
named after.
if I were anywhere near his league, yes, that's true.
you do have that classic movie star look though. Like
Definitely.
and
Definitely.
it's
Oh,
only gotten even more so as you're getting older. Like
thank you. That's a real compliment.
it's crazy. It's like you've always had that kind of classic, I think, Cary Grant look. But as you get older, I see your promotional photos and your auditions that you post and things, and then just like seeing you in projects like The Offer, which you did,
Right.
which was fantastic. I enjoyed every episode,
Unbelievable.
and you were so great. So proud of you. It was
Thank
so
you.
great to see you on the screen and be like, "That's my buddy." Like you were great, and you like, oh, you got to hold your own with some pretty heavy hitters. Colin Hanks. I mean,
Can you believe it? I know.
It's amazing.
It was
But
a
you
dream
look
come
like you're
true.
from that time, Alan.
You can
You
call me
do.
Al.
Call me.
Thank you.
Al.
You can call me out. Yeah. That's what I want to ask you about that too. How did you get the role? Where'd that come from? Big audition process, all that stuff.
So I, moved out here to act in 2010, and I kind of got burned out about 2015 or so. And I actually took 5 or 6 years off and just sold clothes on eBay and played organ in my church, and
I didn't know you played organ.
yeah.
Hey,
That's
man,
something Bryan and I have in common. We're both keyboard guys.
Keywords.
Yeah.
Excellent,
Yeah.
man. We jam sometime over
Yeah.
Zoom or something. I don't know.
So in 2019, my landlady wanted our apartment for her daughter, and so she sort of evicted us. And I hadn't really saved up a lot of money to move. It was kind of a surprise to me. And so all my business money went to moving, and my business just kind of fell apart, So then I was like, well, now what am I going to do? And I thought, well, I guess I'll go back to acting. I don't know what else to do, And it had been enough time that I wasn't burned out anymore, and I kind of was excited about it again. And so I just called up my old agent from years back, and she was like, great, And so I auditioned for a couple of things. I auditioned for that new Brad Pitt movie, Babylon, that's coming out. Didn't book that, but sort of got close, just a little part.
Did he just produce that? He's not in it, right?
I think he's in it. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's a very hush hush project.
I know. There's all these things out right now saying like,
Yeah.
don't ruin the ending, don't ruin the
Right.
movie,
And
So
yet
I'm excited.
everybody in LA has been in Babylon, I think, except me, because they had a huge, it's a cast of literally thousands of extras. But
Wow.
then I booked another thing. It was a music video where I was going to play Humphrey Bogart, and I was really excited about that, but the funding fell through. So I was, not really doing much. And then I got the flu, and I was at the doctor's office getting a breathing treatment. I've actually got a picture of me with a breathing mask on, an oxygen mask,
That's
and
me
while
every
I'm
night,
sitting
buddy.
while I'm sitting there breathing oxygen, my phone rings, and it was my agent, and she said, I have this audition. I don't know if you'd be interested. It's called The Offer. I'm like, why wouldn't I be? That's what I'm here for,
Yeah.
So I auditioned for it, and auditions now in LA are all done right here in my garage,
Yeah, same
basically,
thing. Same thing
Yeah.
here.
So I did, I don't know what my normal requisite number of takes, and got what I thought was a pretty good take, and then I bumped my mic there, sorry. And then I really thought about it, and I was like, boy, this is a big one. I think I need to do a better job. So I broke out this equipment, hooked it up, did the other person's voice on this so I'd have really good sound, recorded it again and again, got a really good take, sent it in, didn't hear anything. And it got to be, I think, the Friday before they were going to shoot. I think they were going to shoot on a Monday. And I called my agent. I was like, have you heard anything on this? And she's like, no, let me check. And she got back and she said, well, it looks like they may be going another direction. I'm like, oh, great. And then I got another email saying, oh, actually, they may want you, which makes me think somebody wasn't available.
Hey, doesn't matter, right?
Right?
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Get the gig however you can. Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
So my girlfriend and I were eating Chinese at that point. We were at a restaurant, and I was like, oh, hope. And then we went to Target, and while we were walking around in Target, I got the email that I had booked it, and they sent me a deal memo, an offer, they called it. It was an offer for the offer.
For the offer.
Yeah.
Of course.
And so then in December, I've got to go in and shoot the first day. And the first scene I'm in is a ladder scene where you may not even notice I'm in it. We're just sitting in a restaurant. And that was all I did that day. I sat and ate steak and lobster. And
they come by your table and talk to you.
Yeah. Matthew Good is off in the distance as Robert Evans, and we're kind of waving him over, but he goes over and talks to Colin Hanks instead. So that was my first day. It was super easy. And I was like, oh, I can handle this,
Sign me up every day. Yeah.
Yeah. And then a month later, I got to shoot the second scene, and that's where I actually
the big scene. Yeah. It's a great office scene with you and Colin Hanks, and who's the other actor?
Josh Zuckerman as Peter Bart. Yeah. Yes. Lovely people. And Adam Arkin was our director. Such a nice guy. Oh, he's so generous with I'm by far the least experienced person in the room, and we did a take, and I was like, oh, that felt kind of fake. My delivery felt kind of fake. And he's like, well, let's do it again. You've got all these crew people. There were 2 cameras, 2 boom mics. I'd never seen a setup like this,
Yeah.
All this stuff going on around you peripherally, and you're just like, focus.
Yeah, right. We've talked about that on the show before, about how acting and stage productions and acting and film are completely different because of the nature of truth that you have to, the focus that it takes. You can't just be in it as easily in a film because you've got all this stuff going on in your line of sight, and you got all these people watching you and all this stuff. Whereas on stage, you're kind of, it's dark out there and it's light on stage, and you can get into it, and it never stops. You don't have cut. Okay, let's go back and do it again. It's just, you're in it till the end of the show,
Very true. Yeah.
And it takes that's why I say not everybody can act. I don't believe that everybody can do it. It's a skill set. It's not just the ability to convey truth, but it's the ability to focus your imagination and really get into it. And
it's a weird collection of talents.
Yes, and skills.
Yeah.
Well, that ties into one more question I had for you, Al. There's another thing I saw you in. This is back in Springfield. It was a stage play, and you're playing like a Kramer from Seinfeld type character. And the only costume I can remember you're wearing was a bathrobe. And you're coming in and out, and you got this, it's like this obnoxious dialogue and everything. And I can't remember the title of it. I'm sure it was at the Vandervoort, but I remember seeing you in that play as well, back in Springfield.
Run for Your Wife. Yeah.
Run for Your Wife. Okay.
It was
But
a British farce.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Who
It was
directed
so
that?
fun. It was
Hmm?
so funny.
Who directed that?
Oh,
Was it David Rice?
no, it was, oh God, give me just a second here. I have the t-shirt right around the corner. Let me
Oh,
grab it.
all those old great show
Uh,
shirts.
Yeah. Oh man, he's got everything right there. Yeah. All right.
Sorry about that. That's totally unprofessional, but directed
No,
by Nathan Grant.
Okay.
Can you see it?
he's got. Oh
Yeah,
man,
I can. That is
that's so
awesome.
great. You have
You
that.
have that
Yeah.
show shirt. That's so awesome. So
Yeah.
that was at the Vandervoort Center Theater then, right?
Yeah, it had
Yeah.
Jill Bailey, Clint Biggerstaff was the lead, and Chelsea Russell. Chelsea and Jill played Clint's two wives, and I played his neighbor. Then we had Todd Osborne and David Rice as two policemen,
Fun
and
guys. Yeah.
Byron Meyer
Oh,
as his neighbor, his other neighbor.
all those Missouri peeps. You know Byron, Brian.
I know
Yeah.
Byron was my
He was a
student
student.
when
Right.
I taught at Parkview High School, and he also sang Pinball Wizard with the orchestra on a
Yeah.
concert.
He was
Oh
in our
my
production.
gosh.
He was in our
Great singer.
production where Brian and I met of Clue the Musical.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's a small world. That
Small.
was a great little
It
theater, wasn't
is.
it? The
Yeah.
Vandervoort Center Theater
Oh,
was such
yes.
a, it's like about 150 seat house. Now it's been gutted and turned into a luxury hotel, the whole building,
Mm.
Oh,
the Vandervoort Hotel. And it's like really bougie, fancy, and really nice, but
uh-huh.
it was so sad. I still haven't gone upstairs there because I can't
Right.
bear
Yeah.
it because
Yeah.
that was an
There.
old, it was an old Freemason lodge up there,
Oh,
like that stage. It was like a ceremonial place for the Freemasons up. That's what that was
really?
built for.
Oh,
And then it turned into the theater, and Springfield Contemporary Theater ran it for many, many years. And that's where I cut my teeth as a director and as an actor, like really starting to do more adult things aside from just like typical kid-friendly community theater and stuff. Started doing stuff there. And then that's where we did Dracula, but both
yeah.
productions. And that's a great theater. It's,
Oh,
yeah,
And I did
good memories.
and I did a great production. I know everybody, they don't like doing it, but I did a great production of Grease there, and was
oh,
very successful. And Sandra D was played by, I forget the girl's name, but Miss Missouri that year
oh,
was.
wow.
We got and
Hello.
of course yeah, I know, of course she's like super hot and everything, but man, she was the triple threat. She could sing, she could act, and that's another great memory of the Vandervoort was doing Grease there, and they chopped the
Interesting.
car in half to have the Grease Lightning coming in there.
Uh-huh.
They did and packed the house every night.
Who directed that one?
Chris Levy.
Oh, Chris
Yeah,
Levy. Yeah. He's in
sure.
Chris
Florida
Levy.
now. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those were such wonderful days in Missouri, and I don't think I really appreciated how lucky I was at that moment in my life, because I had just sort of randomly moved to this town at the age of about 30 or 31.
Yeah, me too.
And I knew nothing about, I didn't know what I was going to do for a job. And I sort of fell into this whole, I just one day decided, I think I want to do a play. And I went and I looked online, and they were having auditions that night for You Can't Take It With You at the Landers. And I was just like, oh, I know that. I saw that movie. And I went and I auditioned, and Kendra Chappell, I think, was the director. And it was the most laid back, it was just like the gentlest introduction to theater ever. She was just like, hey, just get up and do whatever, do it as many times as you want, play, audition for whatever you want. It was so easy.
Yeah.
It was amazing. And there was I wanted to ask you, Nathan, you and I both started, I think the first movie we did was Nine Grounds, and then we did People in Motion, but People in Motion came out first.
Mm-hmm.
What was going on in Springfield was that like the start of the Springfield film world? Was there more
No, well, okay, it had come in waves, right? So before that, back in the 90s, there were some people like Mike Strain, and some of those guys that had done a movie, I think Vile 13 or something like that.
right.
And that was like, it was a bigger deal. It was like completely, Brian Blakey, those guys, they had produced this thing a long time ago. Then like nothing happened for a while. And then somewhere
Oh,
around 2003, 2005-ish,
yeah.
there
Yeah.
started to be more stuff coming in. And I met up with Ross Payton. You know
Yeah.
Ross Payton.
Oh, yeah.
Ross Payton and his dad, Leland, and they were making a movie called Motorhome from Hell, and I
I
was
remember
doing
that.
10th Theater at the time. And that movie we shot for like a year and a half. David Crudwig is in that. We're going to have David on the show at some point. But we we shot that movie, and it's so cheesy. It's so cheesy. You can get it on Amazon, or you used to be able to. I don't know if you still can. I mean, it doesn't make a lot of sense, and I play the devil in that. But then right after that, I met so many people like Sarah Kessinger or Wilson.
Yeah.
I think it's Sarah Kessinger
Yeah.
now. But
Sarah Wilson originally, right?
yeah,
DeWalt?
Sarah Wilson, and then Sarah Wilson DeWalt, and then Sarah Kessinger. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Sarah, whatever. I don't know what her
Yeah.
last name is now, but Sarah, I met her on that movie, and because of her, got a whole ton of other things. Like because she wound up being a producer on Nine Grounds and stuff
Right.
like that. And I didn't know you during Nine Grounds, I don't think.
We met on Nine Grounds because we were in a scene together. Do you remember?
The bar scene?
No, the scene where we are standing out, you're smoking. I remember you had 4 different lengths of cigarettes. You were very professional. I was very impressed by you. You know,
oh, because I brought my cigarettes with me.
No, because you had thought about continuity, like, he's going to have a shorter cigarette. You were meeting with the UN or something, and Sean Teague and I were French thugs.
Right. I'm thinking of a different thing too. In my mind, we're sitting here talking about Nine Grounds, Brian Blakey's film, and in my mind, I'm thinking of Broken Faith, which happened much later.
Yeah, much later.
Yeah, much later. But still, because I got Nine Grounds because of meeting Sarah on Motorhome from Hell. And so yeah, you're right. Nine Grounds was one of the second thing I'd done, and that's where we met. You're right. You were because I was so taken with you too, because you brought your own wardrobe, and you looked like you were some sort of like French serial killer, and you were French in that, right? Like, weren't you French too? I was French, supposed to be French Canadian in that, which was weird. Not French Canadian. I was supposed to be a French diplomat. And then he told me, I auditioned with a French accent. The part was written for somebody much older than me. And I came in with a French accent, and it was so on the nose that people thought in the reading that I was French, and he thought it was too much. Whoa. So then he said, well, maybe make it like he was educated in London or something. And so my accent in the movie sounds terrible because I was trying to juggle too many balls, and I didn't quite know what I was doing.
What was your name? Your character name?
Corbin Fontaine.
Corbin Fontaine. That's it. Good memory.
I was the bad guy, which I'm not. Like, if you just look at me, I'm not a bad guy. You have much more. You could have played that villain. You had those little round glasses, Alan. Yeah, that was so awesome. And you were the bodyguard or something to the African. Right, to the African diplomat.
Yes,
Phil Secca's character.
Philip Secca, yeah, that's right. No, I was working at the time as a medical transcriptionist for
right.
God, St. John's or something. And
I remember you had that. It was such a sweet gig for an actor to have.
Yeah, and I was reading whatever the local paper, like free. I'm sure it was free newspaper, and they said, "Oh, they're making a movie." And I immediately got on the phone. I called Sarah, and I was like, "Can I be in your movie?" She was like, "Sure."
Oh, you had such a great look, and then right after that, we did People in Motion, where we played roommates.
Right, yeah, with Ed Moore. That's so amazing
and Zach Stevens wrote that.
And Zachary, that's right. That was so amazing that you and I both just kind of came in at that exact moment when things really started. There really was a lot of happening in those years.
Yeah. And then that's when we all started going to lunch. Remember Brian too? We would all go to Wing Tuesdays with Daryl, Mickey Stone, us, and
Justin Evangelista.
Yeah, all the guys that were really doing a lot, all the filmmaking and at the time, actors, writers, directors, producers, special effects guys. We were all kind of rolling together. And you're right, Alan, it was kind of a magic time. I was still in college after being in college for way too long already at that point. I went from 2000 to 2008.
Whoa.
Yeah, full time.
That's awesome.
Well, I don't know. I didn't get a degree, so not that awesome. I'm about $90,000 in debt and don't have a degree, so
well,
but I lived life.
You did.
I learned a hell of a lot. I toured Europe, did a lot of things. So yeah, that was a really, really, really fun time back in Missouri, and I think we were all doing a lot of film, indie film, student film stuff, theater things as well. You know, Brian and I were really pushing for theater things, and then Brian, you left for Los Angeles in '06.
Yeah, but that's another on Nine Grounds. Again, I started it in Springfield.
Yep,
I remember just
did.
walking into Brian Blakey's office, and I'm like, I forget what the connection, but he invited me over
I
there. It's not like,
yeah,
or he's your connection.
I told him
Okay,
about you because
Ah,
we had done Dracula and everything and all
yeah,
these other things. And I was like, if you're looking for somebody, he's great.
yeah.
And he was like, yeah, great, great. Yeah.
And I remember just walking into his office. He's sitting behind his desk, and maybe his secretary or a couple other people in there. I'm like, oh, all right, here we go. I'm just start talking to him and everything, and then got the gig and everything. But that's another one I started in Springfield and finished in Los Angeles. And I remember he loved the trailer. He cut a trailer together, and I wrote music for the trailer, and he was all about that. So that was a fun project. All three of us were on.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And there was just, there was a lot of stuff going on at that time. We were gonna, my wife at the time and I, Alan, we were going to move with Brian together to Los Angeles. That was
Oh,
our
really?
original goal, but then we got pregnant with Lena.
Oh, sure.
And so we were like, okay, well, we're gonna stick around here a little bit. And Brian was like, see ya. And he just went ahead and
Yeah,
left.
I had nothing holding me back. I was like,
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
packing up my
and he had
car
been
and
gearing up
moving.
his life, to go, up until. And so when we found that out, we stayed, he took off, and yeah, but we all continued to still work together, and
Yeah. Yeah.
which is great. And Alan, you left, when did you leave? You left in
2010.
2010.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if you had stayed then when we did Shadowbound, like I would have had Al be the lead in Shadowbound in a heartbeat. In a
Oh.
heartbeat. Because you have that classic look. And I was going actually after my cousin to do the part, Jordan Fox. I think you might know Jordan. I don't remember, but he's in Kansas City. But he couldn't do it. He was so busy. So I wound up playing it, but I was just too chubby, didn't have the quite the look that I wanted. I knew I could act what I wanted to get across, in the character. But yeah, had you been in Springfield at that time, still, I like in a heartbeat, that would have been, if we had the money to
Oh,
bring you
yeah.
back, I would have done it. But I can't.
Left too soon, man.
Well, I mean, you building a home out there, doing, building a life and everything, and it's obviously doing very well for you. You're, starting to get even more auditions and more visibility, and this is just the beginning for Alan Marsh, I think.
Well, let's hope, huh?
No, I do think that. And I love I love seeing how hard you go at your auditions as well. You see a lot of actors just kind of like, you're gonna do this. And it looks like you just have fun with every single audition you do. Even if you don't, it looks like you're having fun with
Yes,
it.
yeah.
And that's great. I mean,
I
very few auditions I actually have fun with. You're actually getting to audition for a lot of movies. I get a lot of commercials here in Chicago when I audition.
Oh, sure.
I get real fucking tired of it. Sorry, we can cuss on this podcast, but I get really tired of like we joked around in episode 1 about playing a poop emoji and stuff like that. It's like, I know that as an actor we should always be happy about getting anything, really.
Yeah.
But again, it's like I didn't get into acting to do that. I don't want to just be paid just to be on camera,
Right.
because to me, that's not my life. That's not what I want to do. I want to play characters. I want to build stories. That's what I'm interested in. So sometimes I feel like I have to make my own projects. I have to develop my own things, or I'm never going to get what I'm wanting. But I did get a movie audition not too long ago to play a cult leader in a horror movie that's being remade, and they were shooting in the South, and my agent submitted me for that, and I was like, oh yes, this is great. And they gave me the whole script to read, so I got to read the whole thing and really bit into it. Had a great, this is the first really fun audition I've had in years.
Oh, good for you. That's got to feel good, huh? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
he was
man.
he was kind enough to send me the footage, ask me what I thought. It was it was terrifying. It was
Yeah?
terrifying. I know Nathan pretty well, but to see him on those takes, I'm like, whoa.
My
I was like, dude, I knew you're a good actor, but then I was like, one of those takes, I was like, holy crap, dude, you're like transforming everything.
Oh.
Your
My-
voice, your
my
face,
child
everything.
helped me with all those, and it was a lot of takes, and it was
It
a lot
was-
of fun though. I got into it. I got really into it. I never get to play a bad guy, so of course when I get a chance to do it, I'm gonna just go for it.
It was worth it, man. It was terrifying. Truly was, man.
Well, thank you.
Well,
Thank
and
you. That's what I
Nathan,
go for.
I would not get too hung up on how you look either, because you got to remember when we did our first film, you were the lead. I was the supporting character,
But that's
you were the
because I
leading
went to
man.
college with those guys.
I don't think that matters.
I went to college with them. They knew me. They had seen me act in stage a lot.
Because you're
so they
good.
knew me. So they knew me. They knew what I could do. And that's part of it. That's part of it is knowing people, right?
Yeah,
It's not
absolutely.
just talent. It's knowing people. It's knowing what you can do. It's having that shorthand. Like if I'm directing a project, I know that if I know somebody really well, if there's somebody that's just as talented, but I don't know how they work or I'm a little sketchy about them, I'm going to go with the person that might not be quite as talented, but that I know I can hone in and really get a great performance out of because we have that shorthand every time.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I get it. I understand the way the game's played. It's just
well, you're gonna tear it up when you get out here. I know you are.
Yeah.
That's a hope. That's the hope. As I get older, I'm aging into my look, So like yourself, you got that classic movie star thing that as you get older, you only age like a fine wine, and people are gonna want to put you on camera because you're like, wow, look at this guy. Looks like a classic movie star. I need him in this movie. So
it's interesting that the casting trend right now is much more toward diversity, much more toward like my type doesn't really play a lot right now.
I know. It's it's not anything we can get mad at being of the Caucasian persuasion.
Yeah.
We can't, we've had it good for many, many years.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
And other people have been screwed over for parts all the time. I've lost many, many commercial parts where they're like, well, we know we're going to go with an ethnicity for either the male or female role here.
Yeah.
We don't know which one. So we're going to call you back in, and you get a call back, you go in, and then they're like, yeah, we decided that we're going to go with a different ethnicity for the male role. So thank you so much. We'll get you back in sometime or whatever. And it's like, yeah, I get it. Makes so, but it's just the business is so about how you look and who you know and all that stuff. It's so easy for us, I think, as actors. I mean, to get down, about or try to change yourself. Like for years, and really up until very recently, Alan, I've always felt like, oh, I can be anything you want me to be. Right. Like, and I would try to change myself all the time to where the point where it's like existentially, you're sitting there going, well, who am I? If I'm always trying to be something else, because I do that, wind up doing that in my personal life as well, because that just becomes your thing. Because when you're an artist, you kind of live your work. And it's hard to separate those things. So for me, that's been a huge realization over the last 10 years is where are these boundaries that I have as a human being and as what I am and who I am really, and really taking a look at that and trying to find out if I like that person or, and then presenting that in my art too, like being okay with how I look and how I sound and all of that, and giving that out to a casting director and saying, look, this is me. If you don't like it, that's okay, but this is what I can give you, and being okay with that. That is hard for me. And I think that's hard for a lot of actors, but really embracing that aspect instead of being like, no, I can be whatever you want me to be. I can be hipster. I can be, whatever.
It's
and
like Dustin
really
Hoffman
tough.
in Tootsie. You remember him at the beginning, how desperate he is? He's like,
exactly. I mean, that's the whole movie is he makes himself into somebody else because he can't get cast.
Yeah.
Well,
go ahead.
Oh, I was just commenting on that and the right look and everything. I remember we were talking about Chris Levy earlier, and he said he went, and this was years ago, he said he went to an audition for Les Mis, and they said, a touring company of Les Mis, and the instructions were dress up for the character you want. And so they lined up everybody on the stage, dozens and dozens of people, all the Jean Valjeans and Cosettes and everything like that. And then somebody went through and said, I want you, everybody else go home. And no singing, no acting.
Whoa.
Just based on the look, their face, hopefully good costume and everything. So when you say, it's just how you look and everything, I mean, that's seems like 90% of it. Do you look the part?
Yeah.
Whatever it may be. So I don't know, it just popped in my head. You're talking about that. So.
It's a lot of it. And with the, in today's too, they really trying to get accurate representation for what the world is like and getting quality acting across the board and getting, different ethnicities, different genders, gender fluid individuals, like all sorts of, because that's the way the world is. And people call that woke and get upset about it and stuff. But I actually think it's quite an exciting time in the casting world and in the film to see such great diversity. We're seeing, television shows come out that have leading individuals that 10 years ago would have never been a lead.
Absolutely,
but now they
true.
are, and it's really exciting. It's challenging too, because we're being challenged in our societal like concepts of what casting should be, and even in theater too, especially in theater too, with like non-traditional casting and stuff coming in for roles that have been historically white men or white women or whatever, being able to actually open those things up. I think it's very exciting.
And another thing on that is I was listening to something like people pitching TV shows and pitching movie ideas, and they say Friends would never get made today because you got 6 white heterosexual people in the script there. I was like, that would never get made today.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that, and you got to ask too. It's like, well, should they be made today? But then again. It's a pendulum, right? And so I think it's swung so far in one way for so long for the majority of the industry that now it's swinging vastly the other way, and it will balance out again.
Probably,
where there is no need to push for certain minorities to have, because nobody will be a minority, because everybody will have representation. And that's my hope, and that the coming years, everybody is so equally represented in media and across the board that there's no fight anymore. There's no lifting up of this, like years ago when a gay character would kiss another gay character, it was always like, oh, ooh, they're being shocking and stuff. And like now it's starting to go, well, that's just the way these characters are in love, and that's it. And that is a great trend to see, is that we kind of normalize those things. So normalizing all of that, normalizing different all the different people in our media, I think it'll balance out.
I think so too. Yeah. And that's a nice thought.
It's a hopeful thought.
It is a hopeful thought. Yeah. You and I.
One more, I'm sorry, one more story about all these things and roles and everything. Again, they just remade West Side Story with, actual, ethnically correct casting when, Natalie Wood, as a white woman, cast as a Puerto Rican when the first one, it's like that, that would not fly today. I mean, you imagine the upset on Twitter and everything if a white woman been cast as a Puerto Rican.
Or even worse, Mickey Rooney playing an Asian in The Apartment.
And Breakfast at Tiffany's.
Was it Breakfast at Tiffany's? Yeah, you're right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Good catch.
Yeah. Awful.
Yeah.
Awful. Stereotypical. But that kind of shit was going on into the 90s. I mean, it was going on into the early 2000s, especially with Asian stereotypes.
Oh yeah.
Because there are certain ethnicities that were taboo. Like you didn't do blackface. You didn't do things like that. That was not cool.
Right.
Rightfully so. But they were still allowed to do different, Indian, Asian, different things. And that was okay for a white person to play. I mean, look at Short Circuit in the 80s too. Where you have an actor playing a East Indian individual who's not. And it's so problematic when you go back and look, but at the time it wasn't considered problematic. It was just like, I'm an actor, I'm hired to do a job, and it's not like I'm trying to do a send up or make fun of anybody in that case. Like,
which brings an interesting point. My most recent thing that I just got cast in is playing a German.
Oh.
And it said German actors are welcome to apply too, but I got it,
Okay. But that's okay though. I mean, that's not a different. I mean,
I have a little German in me,
Yeah, there you go.
But the
pull that off.
The last 3 things that I've done, and I was realizing, oh, this is an interesting trend. I playing a German now coming up. Before that, I did. I was doing a transatlantic accent, and before that, I was playing a Brit. I'm like, wait a minute, I'm only getting hired to do accents. I'm not getting hired to play me. Just talk like me.
But some people can't do that. Alan.
Well,
Like
that's
some people
true.
can't do it, especially transatlantic. Believe me, running the Frightmare Theater podcast,
Yeah.
we've done some shows that are more old style, and getting people, and I'm like, oh, it's just a transatlantic dialect. It's super easy, and people are like, okay, and they get in there, and it's like, ugh, you can't like the just
No,
can't
there's
even.
a lot of people. It's like I can't dance. I can do accents, but I can't dance. You
Yeah, I
know,
can't dance
a
either.
lot of people can't
you
do
go,
accents.
you go back and you watch a lot of those older movies. I mean, you and I both are fans of classic cinema.
Yeah.
Brian, you might be too. I'm not sure. I know Alan and I both love old movies.
Not so much, but I appreciate it, of course.
Well, the more you watch, the easier it is to pick up on that on the transatlantic. But it is definitely a lost art form these days, Alan. Like movies that take place in that time period, people did talk like that, not just put on.
No,
but
that's
it
true.
it was like a cultural thing. It's like it's an amazing it was an amazing weird trend. It was very strange. It was all built on Hollywood. It was all built on that. And
it's how Lauren Bacall talked. It's how Grace Kelly talked. It's how what's her name? Breakfast at Tiffany's.
Audrey
Hepburn talked. Yeah.
And Katharine Hepburn
Seth,
too.
And
Hepburn, yeah.
Both Hepburns.
Yeah.
Okay. And my connection on that is Seth MacFarlane doing Quagmire. He modeled that. He modeled that voice after the transatlantic accent because his father was a broadcaster and he listened to those old radio shows as a kid.
Oh,
so
really?
that's how he came up with the Quagmire on that transatlantic accent thing.
Well, it's funny. We were talking before the show. My great uncle was in a movie in 1955 and he was a Kansas City dentist. Okay. So no training at all. And when he starts talking in the voiceover, he says, "This is John Marsh. Betty and I are so excited to be getting on a plane," and then I would never have, in any other circumstance, they would have trained that accent out of him. But it's so beautiful to listen to, it's so pure and it's so, this is how it was,
Yeah.
Jeez, absolutely.
It is nice that people are free to be people more and be who they are more on film and TV.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah. It is nice. It's also, it's scary a little bit auditioning because you're like that. There's a vulnerability there. You're not putting on something else.
No,
to fake.
Nathan, you and I were both worked for Gospel Publishing House in a series
Faith Case,
great videos called Faith Case, and I was Mr. Trench, and you were Inspector Apple. Is that right?
Inspector Adam Apple.
Apple, yeah.
But first I was your doctor before I was that.
That's right. You were Doctor.
I was Doctor.
So we both worked
with a German accent.
That's
of course.
Right.
Of course.
But we both worked for Dale Garris, and he was our director. And I remember when I was auditioning for that part, getting back to what you were saying, I was trying to be like a tough cop, and he kept cutting and saying, no. He was like, "We wrote this with you in mind. You are the part. You don't have to.
It's you."
Yeah. And so when I went into the offer, I watched video of Alvin Sargent, the screenwriter that I'm portraying, and he's been interviewed, so you can watch him. He's from Philadelphia. And I thought, okay, I could try to imitate him, but I'm not sure I could pull it off. And I'm not sure anybody would know enough about him to know that and it's not going to be me. So I thought, I'm just basically going to talk like myself, And also I thought, with the added benefit of maybe people will be like, oh, this is what he looks like and sounds like, casting directors, thinking about booking my next thing, that they won't be expecting something else other than me, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and I think people just want authenticity these days. It's like,
seems like
right for this role. I mean, it's like you're trying. I mean, as good as actors as there are out there, it's like, oh, are you really, this ethnicity? Can you really this accent, or do you need a vocal coach or something like that? Because I remember recently on Bill Maher, he was talking about that. He's like, that's what actors get paid to do, to pretend to be something else. Because they hate being themselves, So it's like, but I want that. I was like, is this really a person from this country? Is it, or are they that good an actor they can pull off this, German accent, what have you?
And now that said, Matthew Good playing Robert Evans is nothing like that in real life. He's a Brit, I mean,
he was great.
Oh my gosh, phenomenal.
I mean, he had that kind of nasally because he does so much coke kind of thing, I guess Trump sounds like that too a little bit.
Bubby.
Bubby. But he had that And he talks really fast all the time too. Like
Yes.
you listen to him in interviews, the real guy, and is just like, but
Just the
Matthew Good, yeah,
role of a lifetime, man. So good.
really,
Yeah.
and kind of a tour de force for him. He got to do
Tour de
everything. And
force,
there's some
totally.
great comedy, great drama,
Yeah.
some real tragedy in that, in his love life and everything, and a lot of desperation. That is a really great series. If you haven't checked it out on Amazon, please, please.
Paramount Plus.
Sorry, Paramount
Yeah,
Plus.
Paramount
I
Plus,
watched it
yeah.
on Amazon, but yes, Paramount Plus. If you haven't checked that out yet, check
Good
out The
catch,
Offer
Brian.
and see Alan Marsh.
Yeah, the whole thing.
Well,
Does it,
for about 3 minutes.
And all those other guys.
Yeah.
yeah, and
Yeah.
the whole history of, I don't know, one of the best movies in the world.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, but
yeah,
it's
yeah.
such
If
a
you're- if
great
you're-
and interesting story. You know, somebody else in there that plays a pretty broad character compared to how he really is, but he's a character actor, is Giovanni Ribisi
Yes.
in that movie,
Right.
playing what's his name?
Columbo, Joe Columbo.
Yeah, Joe Colombo, and just being this like, you know, kind of larger than life mafioso character who was larger than life mafioso in real life. But you know, you look at the work of Giovanni Ribisi, who I absolutely adore. Ever since, you know, the first time I saw him, he was a teenager in an X-Files episode that I remember.
Oh, wow.
You know, and but he's always great, and he's always really great about playing very desperate individuals. And I don't know if you guys ever saw Sneaky Pete on I think it was on Amazon, but
Oh,
Sneaky Pete, where he
yeah.
plays got 3 seasons, and he was the main guy in it, and it's about a con man who gets out of jail and cons the family of his cellmate to think that it's him, so he's like trying to hide out there while he's dealing with Bryan Cranston, who's a gangster in it, and Bryan Cranston is a producer on the show as well. But if you haven't seen that, I highly recommend that too, because I'm a Giovanni Ribisi fan, so it was interesting to see him in that because it was such a different role for him, playing Columbo.
What was it called again?
That's called Sneaky Pete.
Sneaky Pete. Okay.
And one of my good friends, well, you guys know TJ Pedersen? Do you
Yeah.
guys know TJ?
Yeah.
Okay. TJ's
Worked
out
with
there in
him a
LA
couple
too.
times.
Yeah, his wife, who Sarah, she's been in lots of things. She's the one of the leads on the show Resident Alien, with Alan Tudyk. She's the other lead in that show.
Yes,
Yeah.
from Firefly.
Yeah, Alan Tudyk.
Yes.
Yeah, and she was Tiger Lily in Ever After. Is it Ever After? I think that she was Tiger Lily in on and off. But she's in the second season of Sneaky Pete as a native casino manager there in the show.
Huh.
Yeah.
All right.
And she's very talented, and so it's cool. I love seeing all of my friends out there in LA getting work in quality productions.
Me too.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Well, it's onwards and upwards, man. I mean, I see these great images of you at these auditions, and it is a numbers game. It's like the more auditions you get, you're bound to get something, but you do look like you're having a lot of fun, and we're all rooting for you.
Oh, that is
Oh,
so
absolutely.
kind of
Absolutely.
you. Thank you.
Yeah, we're very excited to see where your career goes. What do you have coming up next?
Well, I'm shooting a film on the 24th called Strange Harvest. That's it. Playing a character.
Is it a film or is it a TV show?
It's a feature film playing a character named Jonas Eckhart, who is a German kind of a book collector. And so they'll be shooting that. I've got a film in post-production called Baggage, in which I play a waiter, kind of an overwrought waiter at a really nice restaurant. That's going to be a good short film. And another one that just came out called A Cotton Moon. And then that I play a man on TV, sort of a 50s TV guy that's with Eric Roberts is in that. Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. in everything, Eric Roberts.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
works
I
a
mean,
lot.
he works a lot in like direct to, movie titles all the way up to like direct to like streaming service, all the way up to bigger projects.
Yeah.
And he doesn't really delineate. He just works.
No, he doesn't. He's a machine almost. It's amazing.
Yeah. Him and Nick Cage.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
like
Right. Yeah.
constant work. It doesn't matter what it is, but you know what? Hey, That's the gig. That's the life. It's nice. Are you working a side job too now, or are you just doing acting full time?
I'm director of music at two different churches. So I get
Oh.
up on a Sunday morning and I
You work your
drive.
tail off. Yeah.
I do. Well, I drive from Burbank to Anaheim, which is about a 40-minute drive, and I play at an 8 o'clock a.m. service there. And
Oh
then
boy.
I drive from at 9. I drive from Anaheim to Beverly Hills and play at a 10:30 service, and then I drive
What
back to Burbank.
denomination?
Lutheran Church, Missouri Synod. That's right. We're both pastors' kids, aren't we?
Yes.
I didn't remember that.
My dad is a pastor in Harrisonville. He's a Methodist pastor in Harrisonville, Missouri, which is just south of KC.
Yeah.
Yeah. And my mom was a youth pastor for many years. But see, I didn't grow up with them being ministers. My dad was a computer programmer and my mom was a speech pathologist.
Got it. So he's a second career pastor. There's a lot of those.
Yeah. Actually, my freshman year of college was his freshman year of seminary in KC.
Oh, wow. That's great. Okay.
Yeah. He went to St. Paul. I think St. Paul's in KC. I think that's the seminary name. But but we definitely, we're both preachers' kids. I couldn't remember where you went to church in Springfield, but yeah, Lutheran, that sounds about right. That's like Catholic light, right? Like Lutheran?
Yeah, absolutely. It's
Is that Church of England?
Sort of Reformed Catholic, I guess you might say.
Yeah, it's pretty close because I've been to a few Lutheran services and played several, raised Catholic, and then but also I played, was a music director a few times for some masses and everything. So I understand what that gig is, and leading the whole congregation and everything, and they're all listening to you to start and stop everything. So it's
I love it because I can't hold still anyway, so it gives me something to do in church. I get to
there you go. Yeah, I love getting in there playing that organ and just there's one in I think it's in Burbank. There's a Catholic church in there, and they let me play the organ in there, and wow. It is fun. Awesome to play in there because all I do is play in my headphones here in my studio.
So it's nice to have it live.
Quite
an experience to play in a nice acoustic church.
It really is. Pipe organ. Yeah. I have to tell you one more thing if I can. I was just going through a bunch of old files on my computer and I found a script that I had written and completely forgotten about when I was in Springfield, and it's called The Demo Reel. And it's about, I guess I had cast myself as the main character as a guy who really wants to put together a demo reel. And he's taking classes from basically Scott Arthur Allen's class, and also George Cron. And he meets with an agent who says, okay, I need a copy of your demo reel by Monday. And it's a Friday. So he goes to this filmmaker who's been sitting on this copy of a film that he made like for a year and a half now, and it's like, it's stuck in post.
Real close to home.
Yeah. And so they start fighting over the one copy of the demo of this film, so he can just burn a quick copy for his demo reel. The filmmaker won't give it up. So he jumps in a car, they have a car chase, and they're driving through Springfield, and another film crew sees them, race past, and they're like, oh, let's follow him. That's so-and-so, and so they start filming the chase. And the actor runs out of gas. He jumps onto the director's car. And so now he's doing like stunts, and they end up on the top. They run through the Vandevort, which is rehearsing a musical version of Raiders of the Lost Ark. He swings off of a cord like onto the stage, and he's like, why didn't you cast me in this? Did you see what I just did? He's like, never mind. And then they run into the Landers. The Landers is also doing a musical version of Raiders of the Lost Ark. They're both doing the same play.
For listeners who aren't aware, really quickly, those are two theaters that were back in Springfield right next door to each other, the Vanderbilt Center Theater and the Springfield Little Theater at the historic Landers building. Go ahead. Sorry.
And they end up, the story ends up on the roof of like the Vandevort with the demo reel going over the side of the building and the actor leaping after it. And Kenny Kalinowski like saves him and is like holding onto his arm. And Kenny is like the handsomer, actor that everybody wants to be, Yeah. And so the whole premise of the film is everybody's telling the actor, you're not letting go. Cause that's what Scott Arthur Allen would always say to me. You're not letting go, And so at the end, Kenny's like, don't let go, and the film falls to the ground and it gets run over by a truck. And so but it's
you gotta make that, Al, and I want to do the music. I'm telling you already, Alan, I'm doing the music for that. Okay. So,
it would be fun.
You got to make that.
Yeah, that's fun.
Well, I mean,
Al,
a lot of it doesn't exist anymore, and nobody would get the jokes anymore. But it kept me amused.
yeah, we used to have a writers group there for a while. Out of the group of us that would meet for Wings on Tuesdays, all the filmmakers in town that would meet on Tuesdays. And do you remember, Al? We were developing some like scenes. We were writing scenes and stuff.
I do.
We did one that was like a mafia scene, and you and I were working on a buddy cop one for a
Yeah.
while, and then we kind of lost interest in it or something. But I
Yeah.
remember we were working on a buddy cop kind of thing where we would both play the two cops.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. No, that's my problem is I have poor follow through with this stuff, you know.
Sometimes I do too. I get all excited about something, and then it's like, you know.
Well, film's a collaborative effort. You got to have, you know,
Definitely.
The writer can't be the guy who sees it through to post, you know.
Right. Yeah, it's hard. It's very hard. So Al, thanks so much for joining us on the episode. Listeners, if you have not checked out The Offer yet, please go to Paramount Plus, check it out. It's worth the free trial for sure. It's the story of the making of The Godfather, and Alan Marsh, our guest today, has a very prominent role in it. Is fantastic in it. It's just a really great series. So be on the lookout for Alan Marsh in future TV and film. His career's just starting to kick off. And yep, run for your wife. Yep. Still got it. All of us former Missouri people moving out into the world and making names and kicking ass. So
trying anyway, huh?
Yeah. Well, both of you
we're
guys
trying to be an actor.
Yes, trying to be a composer.
trying to be an actor. We were talking before the episode about Al's therapist said something about like, oh, well, you're trying to be an actor, and it's like, oh, ouch.
I've been trying for 18 years now, you know, and you're
trying to be a therapist.
Yeah.
Yeah. Try a little harder, I think. But no, you know, Bryan and I, we love having guests on from time to time, and have been wanting to have you on for a while. So glad we could do this. Thank you so much, Alan, for joining us.
Oh, thank you. What a blast. What a total blast.
Yeah, well, definitely we can have you on at another time as well, and eager to see where everything goes. And next time I'm out there in LA, the three of us have got to get together and get a beer.
Absolutely, yeah.
Absolutely.
At the very least, that's, you know, entry level, the beer. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Entry level. Yeah. Awesome. Well, for those of you out there listening, if you'd like to join us in the conversation, please hit us up on the socials, you know, or you can give us an email as well. We love to hear from you. And otherwise, thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, everybody.
Hey, thanks, Alan. See ya.
Bye, guys. Thanks.